Hello my friends, and welcome to an a cappella journey through Pitch Perfect 3, the weakest link in the beloved Pitch Perfect series. For those who may not recall, the original film came out in 2012 and became an instant hit, celebrated for its witty humour, endearing characters, and generally impressive musical performances. I still find myself revisiting the climactic songs from the first film, even after 12 years. The sheer replay value of those tracks speaks volume about their quality. Riding on the success of the original, Pitch Perfect 2 arrived 3 years later. While it didn't quite soar to the same heights, it retained enough charm and energy to be considered a solid follow-up, capturing the essence that made the first film so special. However, Pitch Perfect 3 did not fare as well. It fell short of expectations, missing the mark that had been set so high. So join me as I delve into exactly why Pitch Perfect 3 didn't resonate with fans and where this movie went wrong. The movie begins with one of those flash-forward scenes, but it's completely unnecessary. Typically, flash-forward scenes serve a critical purpose, like creating suspense or setting the emotional tone. For instance, Breaking Bad opens with a chaotic desert scene that hooks viewers with its intrigue. However, the flash forward in Pitch Perfect 3 feels redundant and does not add any meaningful context or anticipation. It could easily be taken out without impacting the story's progression. The movie really begins with Becca getting harassed by the two a cappella judges from the previous films. They are making a documentary about the Bellas, but it's really just an excuse to shoehorn them into the movie. By the way, why does a singing competition have hosts who talk directly over the performances?
Now this is exactly the type of performance you would expect to see at the International Championship of Collegiate A Cappella.
This isn't sport, we don't need a play-by-play. Anyway, Becca is working as a producer for some random company, but she doesn't agree with the artist's vision, so she quits. Becca returns home where she is roommates with Fat Amy. Amy drops the bombshell that Jesse and Becca are no longer together, and the cracks in the movie are already starting to show. Because of this, none of the previous male cast appears in this movie. Not the aforementioned Jesse, not Benji, and most disappointingly, no Bumper, who was arguably the funniest character. It's like when they made Pirates of the Caribbean 4 without a majority of the side characters, and that movie felt off also. Speaking of feeling off, Fat Amy, who I'll admit was really funny previously,
What are you doing? I'm doing horizontal running. Horizontal running?
is completely ruined this time around. They took her from being a side character in the first two movies to making her a main character in this one, and it's just too much. Her humour is incredibly forced and even cringeworthy at times. It was perfectly fine in the first two installments, but it's super overkill in this one, as you'll see throughout the review. Chloe comes in all dressed in her singing gear as the girls are going to a Bart and Bella's reunion at the Brooklyn Aquarium. They reunite with their old team and get approached by the new generation of Bellas. It turns out there was a bit of a mix-up, as Chloe, Jessica, and the rest of the gang assumed they were singing tonight. However, they were only asked to come and watch. This seems like really bad communication skills from both parties, so do better. Emily tells them she didn't invite them to sing because she thought they were also busy with their awesome jobs and amazing lives. That doesn't make any sense, as if they were so fucking busy, they wouldn't have come in the first place, whether it was to watch or sing. The movie then shows a montage of the Bellas hating their jobs, but what's strange is even Jessica is shown to hate her job, despite clearly enjoying it in the previous film. But who cares about consistent characters? How silly of me. The girls then, all clearly in denial, agree that they have awesome lives. The new Bellas perform their song, and all of the old Bellas are extremely jealous and clearly intimidated by not being in the spotlight for a change. After the show, the girls reminisce about the past, and we get a funny line, so I'll give credit where credit is due.
I was supposed to go to my brother's wedding, but this is nice too.
Chloe says how much she wants to sing with the Bellas again. Jessica says since her dad is high up in the army, every year they put on a tour of multiple performances for the troops. She says she could probably get them a spot to perform. But that's not all. DJ Caleb is hosting, but I'll dive into that creature later. The girls are of course ecstatic and all agree to go, except for Stacy, who turns out to be pregnant. By the way, fun fact, The actress Alexa Knapp was recovering from an injury, so she couldn't do the cinematography, and they wrote her character to be pregnant as an excuse to sideline her. The girls arrive in Spain, which I should probably mention is where the army thing is taking place. The two hosts turned stalkers meet up with them and remind the audience they are making a documentary. But don't pay any attention, they are completely pointless and have no bearing on the plot whatsoever. The writers just had to bring them back. Bumper and Jesse weren't important enough to come back, but John and Gail were essential. I'm being sarcastic, but honestly, I don't think these characters are unfunny or anything. They have some funny lines in the previous movies, I just feel like they don't have anything to do here, and they are so shoehorned in, it's kind of sad. Two army dudes walk up to the girls and explain some rules about the army base. They straight up steal a joke from Sky High.
Impale yourself. I hope you all heard each and every word, or else you might very well end up dead.
If you can just remember those few simple rules, I promise you will not fall off the edge of the school. Now.
Fat Amy then mercilessly hits on these army guys.
Question.
Yep.
So this is the first base. Will we be going to second base with you guys?
Not much to note here, at least she's consistent.
Hey guys. All right, I'll give you my number.
The army bros show the girls around the base and introduce us to a few of the fellow performers. We get introduced to one guy who has intense social anxiety and can't even speak. Lily says, and I'll be honest, this character is probably the only consistent thing about this franchise. They don't overuse her, and she's pretty funny. Fat Amy take notes. Anyway, this band called Evermoist says DJ Caleb is going to pick one group to open for him at the end of the tour. And Chloe says,
So there is a competition.
so she is really thrilled about this. But what's frustrating is that the whole competition subplot is pushed aside and ultimately pointless, as you'll see later. So it's all this setup for nothing. The movie is only chucking in a competition as if it's on a checklist, not because it's written well into the story. Hence why the line just completely comes out of nowhere. Even one of the characters comments on how that's a lot of exposition.
That was a lot of exposition.
But just because you comment on how lazy the writing is, doesn't make it less lazy. Evermoist then has a go at the Bellas for singing cover songs, but they themselves legitimately sing cover songs right after this. I guess the writers kind of forgot about that one. Oopsie. The Bellas challenge everyone to a riff-off, another checklist item the movie needs to cross off. They also cut to DJ Caleb a few times throughout this scene, and he doesn't give a fuck. I feel like they just recorded him in real life here, and this is what he's really like. Later on, the girls arrive at their hotel. Emily has mentioned she isn't writing music anymore, and someone tells her not to give up. That's about as deep as it gets, trust me. Chloe also has a huge crush on this army guy Fat Amy was sexually harassing earlier. They will share a few cliche scenes together throughout the movie, so look forward to that. The girls all group up and discuss their game plan for the competition, and they steal another joke, but this time it's from the previous movie.
Emily, please hear this in the best way possible. You're a very stupid person. Legacy, don't take this the wrong way, but you're the dumbest person alive.
They really are running thin here, aren't they? We get more of Fat Amy's forceful humour before she heads off to take a dump. But before said dump, she finds a bear from her childhood, and we get a flashback of a man singing to her. More on this later. It's now the first show on the tour, and the girls are excited to perform together for the first time in 3 years. But before that, Becca meets a guy who works for DJ Caleb. They will share a few cliche scenes together, so look forward to that. Next, we get some interactions between Lily and this anxious guy. They will share a few cliche scenes together, so wait, no, actually, their scenes are not cliche and boring at all. Thank God for that. Then Fat Amy just stands around and makes moist jokes to the army guys. See what I mean by them just going overboard with Amy in this movie? Speaking of moist, it's Evermoist's time to perform, and the Bellas are yet again jealous, just like they were with the new Bellas group. Are they just jealous of everyone? Next up is the Bellas performance, and for some reason, the host, who I thought was meant to be DJ Khaled,
DJ Khaled is hosting.
but anyway, the host introduces the Bellas and says they're an a cappella group with a few YouTube clips, as if they haven't achieved anything significant. But this is so stupid because they have achieved way more than a few YouTube clips. The movie wants the Bellas to be the underdogs so badly, but they were 3-time regional champions before going on to win the World Acapella Championships. They aren't underdogs, so why is this movie trying to pull a fast one on us like this? Also, Gail and John give some commentary just to remind the audience they are still part of the movie, and finally the Bellas perform. And it's probably time I speak about the music. This is Pitch Perfect after all. It's pretty good. Honestly, I don't have much negative shit to say about it. Even as cynical as I usually am in these reviews, I'll admit when something is decent.
Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I love cheap thrills. Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I love cheap thrills.
But the first movie songs are still far superior. Also, there is one song I find really boring, but that's at the end of the movie, so I'll discuss that then. During the Bellas performance, they are interrupted by a speaker playing some war music. This is apparently meant to be in honor of the fallen soldiers, since this is an army base. DJ Khaled and these two nitwits look at the Bellas like they are in the wrong for acting a little confused. But my only question is, why the heck would the speaker play during a performance? Talk about forced tension. After the show, the girls are wallowing in sorrow when Emily suggests they go across the street to a casino where DJ Khaled is partying and show them they are not a joke, since he thinks they are a joke now because they were interrupted during their performance. Even though it was completely out of their control, but I guess the movie needs an excuse for drama. Fat Amy then insults Emily because this is like an ongoing thing now, and the girls get ready to go out. At the casino, Fat Amy is invited to a high roller's room while the rest of the girls follow Becca's crush into DJ Khaled's private party. Fat Amy is approached by, drumroll please, her dad. And it turns out Amy ran away from home because her dad is a high-class criminal and apparently she has been in hiding. Yeah, she showed her crotch to the president in Pitch Perfect 2. I don't think she's doing a very good job of being in hiding. He tells her he isn't a criminal anymore and that he wants to be part of her life and that he's changed. Fat Amy is not having it, however, and storms off. Her dad then jumps up on stage and sings the same song he used to sing to her when she was a child. And it's obvious this hits Amy in a soft spot. Meanwhile, the girls arrive at the private party and Becca's crush is waiting to meet them as he saw them following him. But he's cool with it and he decides to give them a tour. Becca notices something strange and asks her crush what it is. And it's a portable beehive this smoothie guy uses for natural honey.
Doesn't seem like a disaster waiting to happen.
And yes, this is an obvious disaster waiting to happen. Again, just because the movie acknowledges it doesn't mean it's not bad writing. Crush then invites Becca away to show her something privately. He shows her some really expensive equipment, and they have the quirky cliche banter I warned you about. Becca starts messing around with the equipment, and Crush Guy is clearly impressed with her talent. Fat Amy and her dad are now having a great old time together. I feel like they missed out a scene or something, because last time we saw them, Fat Amy was walking away. Granted, he sang that song, but we never saw her properly forgive him. Anyway, the dad promises he will come to see one of Fat Amy's performances, as he's never seen her perform before. Back at the party, Emily and Jessica are talking to an older gentleman who informs them that Jessica's dad won't be able to come and see the Bellas perform. Not to be confused with Fat Amy's dad, this is about Jessica's dad, who has always been alluded to being an arsehole in the past, so this makes sense. Then the movie needs some more drama, so they force Jessica to accidentally knock over these candles. And then, get this right, just like a cartoon, the fire causes Emily to panic, who knocks over this random girl onto the table that distracts this dude and causes him to fall over onto Chloe, who I guess then makes Flo push into the bees. Though I'll be honest, I'm only guessing some of this because the editing in this scene is abysmal. Take a look at how Chloe falls over and Flo is standing here. Then it cuts to Jessica, and when they cut back, Flo is suddenly facing the other way and falling into the beehive.
What?
Those bastards really hope no one would notice. The bees then get out and start attacking everyone, but it turns out Becca can't hear anything because she has headphones on. I find this very hard to believe, but it gets worse. DJ Khaled just so happens to arrive at this time with the Evermoist band, and the singer from Evermoist says,
Checkmate, fellas, checkmate.
but how the heck would she know the Bellas were the ones who released the bees? There are so many other people in the party. Is she dumb or something? The next day, the girls are wallowing in their sorrow yet again, and Evermoist comes for some sick burns.
Like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Only a really sad version where there's no phoenix and just ash.
It's also been 5 minutes since the movie forced a Fat Amy joke down our throats, so can't forget about that. Becca then questions Fat Amy on where she went last night. Fat Amy tells the group she was with her dad, who has been trying to track her down since she ran away. All stuff that the movie had already established earlier, so it's just a waste of time. Fat Amy tries to attack Emily though, because she really hates her for some reason. The fight is interrupted by a FaceTime with Stacy, as she had the baby and wants to show the Bellas. And can you guess what she names the baby? Seriously, do you remember? Well, she named her Bella. Yep. Congratulations, movie. You just did the most freaking obvious thing ever. Who could have seen that coming? The army dude then comes and gets the Bellas as they are leaving for their next show. And we get a montage of the girls performing at different army bases. This montage is over 2 minutes, by the way. What the actual fuck? Why is it so long? This movie is already longer than it should be, and stuff like this is exactly why. After the montage, DJ Khaled gets his first speaking line.
Bellas, make some noise for Bellas out there!
Good for you, DJ Khaled. Can someone get DJ Khaled a lollipop? Of course, Gail and John are still here, making their wacky remarks. Granted, this one was pretty funny.
Perhaps this is the bittersweet memory they will take into the bar with them.
The Bellas are now in south of France. I'd love to tell you what this building they are in is for, but the movie forgets to mention that.
What?
Another cliche crushing on one another scene from these two lovebirds, and then we get a scene between Jessica and Fat Amy. Fat Amy sees Jessica staring out the window, clearly upset, and goes to comfort her. Jessica tells Fat Amy she is upset because her dad isn't coming to see them perform. And I feel like this whole scene is so mean-spirited because Fat Amy looks out the window and sees a yacht on the water. She then celebrates loudly as this is her dad's yacht and he's coming to see her perform. So she completely rubs this in Jessica's face. I get that it's a joke and everything, but it's funny how even the writers aren't taking this subplot seriously. Crush then runs into Becca and invites her to meet with DJ Khaled. And I honestly think DJ Khaled is proof we live in a simulation and the mods just put this guy in to mock us all. He really likes the song Becca recorded earlier at the bee party, and he tells her he wants her to open for him at the performance tomorrow. Becca is super happy and says the Bellas will all be so excited. However, Crush lets her know they only want her. DJ Khaled isn't even acting here, he is definitely like this by the way. He tells Becca it's time to go to the next level, and Crush tells her they are even going to sign her to a label. However, because Becca is so loyal, or stupid, she says she will not accept the offer as the Bellas and her are a team. Fat Amy then meets up with her dad, who has apparently been watching her perform. She is super excited about this and they bond a little further, until Fat Amy quizzes him about the show and finds out he was lying all along. It turns out the only reason he is pretending to be a good dad is so he can take her to the Cayman Islands, where there is a bank account Fat Amy's mum set up for her. So he is only using her to get to the money, which is 180 million by the way. That's a lot of dough. The dad then threatens Fat Amy for the money, but she is saved by the army bros. The rest of the girls, excluding Becca, are having a lunch date when they are approached by a man telling them he is there to take them to the next show. So they all jump in the van and they sing a little song, because the movie has to remind the audience it's a singing movie after all. It turns out that the dude who picked them up works for Fat Amy's dad, and he is kidnapping them and taking them to the yacht. Meanwhile, Fat Amy gets a call from her dad, and he tells her that he is holding her friends hostage and he wants the money. Remember when these movies were about singing? So Fat Amy threatens her dad while Becca walks into the room. Becca then tries to tell Fat Amy about DJ Khaled picking her, but Fat Amy is distracted getting her spy gear ready. This is ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. She had no idea her dad was going to meet up with her on this trip, so why did she pack all this spy gear? Unless you were telling me she always has the spy gear on her, then why the fuck hasn't anyone ever seen it? Since Becca lives with her, that's probably something she would have seen, no? The writers don't give two shits, do they? Fat Amy takes Becca out on a rowboat, and I guess she must have explained the whole hostage situation off screen, because Becca is surprisingly chill about all this.
What?
They then think of a plan to save the Bellas. Becca will distract Amy's dad, while Fat Amy blows up the boat. Yes, I'm serious. But we'll get to that. So Becca sneaks into the hostage crisis and convinces the other Bellas to sing a song to distract the dad. Meanwhile, Fat Amy goes on a full-blown spy mission in a scene that undoubtedly jumps the shark for the Pitch Perfect franchise. For those of you who are unfamiliar with jumping the shark, the term refers to a moment when a TV show or movie takes a drastic and often ridiculous turn, signaling a decline in quality. It originated from an episode of the show Happy Days, where the character Fonzie literally jumps over a shark while water skiing. A moment seen as a desperate attempt to keep the show interesting. Well, this is a perfect example, as Amy literally beats up a bunch of guys since she's like a trained professional fighter all of a sudden. Remember when these movies were about an a cappella competition? I can't believe how ridiculous this is. She runs around the boat kicking ass, and even does a fucking backflip for goodness sake. After she defeats all the goons, she gets some C4 and chucks in the toaster so she can blow up the yacht. Meanwhile, the girls are still singing, and Fat Amy comes crashing down from the ceiling with a fire extinguisher to spray the dad so the girls have time to escape. They jump off the yacht right before it explodes. Because this is an action movie now, they even have a slow motion shot of the explosion behind them. Conveniently, seconds after they jump into the water, the police show up. And this is a really bad movie trope that is so overdone, it's the definition of lazy writing. The girls are rescued and taken to shore. And now it's time for perhaps my least favourite scene in the movie, which is saying a lot considering what we just witnessed. Becca reveals she was the one that DJ Khaled picked and says that she won't agree because she's a team player. But the Bellas tell her to go for it.
Okay.
And then Jessica starts crying out of frickin' nowhere and says she actually hates performing in front of people because it makes her feel like puking like in the first movie. But this is absolutely dog shit. She loves singing. In fact, she's kind of obsessed with it. That's like her whole character. Then the movie expects us to believe she's actually glad she doesn't have to do it anymore. That's why I hate this scene. They try and wrap up all the Bellas' storylines, if you can even call them that, in a nice little bow, but it's also rushed. Jessica says she will become a baby life coach. This chick says she will join the Air Force. And get this right, Emily says she will keep on writing music thanks to some encouragement. Oh my god, so glad they wrapped that up. It was so important how they set it up in one scene, then forgot about it for 45 minutes.
Emily, is it true what you said back there? Are you really not writing anymore? Well, not right now.
Many minutes later.
But also, you're gonna keep writing, so your life isn't filled with crushing regret, right? Yes. Good.
Okay.
Also, Flo owns a fast food franchise now. And weirdly of all, Lily finally speaks normally. She says,
Satan has finally left my body. Hi, I'm Esther.
I'm so confused, as her name used to be Lily. Whatever, the heck is happening? This movie never explains this. And as if it wasn't obvious enough already, Chloe says it's time for them to move on with the next chapter of their lives. Though they kind of already fucking did that when they all got jobs. They just don't like them. They still moved on for the last 3 years though. Am I missing something? And Chloe says she got into vet school, so that's good for her. Seems like she hated working with animals earlier in the movie, but whatever. And Fat Amy has $180 million now, so she's all good also. So this whole scene is a super rushed conclusion that doesn't feel earned at all. Have the writers ever heard of show don't tell? It's such a lazy way to wrap up all of their stories. Next up, it's the night of the final performance, and for some reason, Gail and John are hosting. Alright, that makes no sense. They were only following the Bellas for a documentary. When the hell did they get hired to host the event? DJ Caleb comes on stage to mock our very existence one more time before Becca performs her solo song. And if you remember way earlier back in the review, I said one of the songs is really boring. Well, this is it. I'm not a fan of this song.
I was every little hungry schoolgirl's pride and joy, and I guess it was enough for me.
I can't quite put my finger on it, it just doesn't do it for me. It's so forgettable. Midway through her performance, Becca randomly pulls the other Bellas onto stage. Wait, stop. Jessica said she doesn't even like performing, remember? Also, as if she's allowed to do this, she was chosen for a solo act. This is a massive televised event. That's not how things work. But we are almost at the end. We both know this movie doesn't care about making sense of anything. The Bellas all sing together, not much to say. We've seen this 10 times already. I'm really sick of this movie at this point. And that's the end of the movie, my friends. We actually made it. The pain is over. Wait a second. Nope, there's more. These sneaky filmmakers put more scenes in the credits. And you know what's insane? They end up wrapping up the storylines better in the credits than in the actual movie. Let me explain. First up, Jessica finally gets a real reunion with her dad. Secondly, this weird couple get together. Good for them, honestly. Thirdly, Chloe and Army do get together. Who could have seen that coming? And it's hinted that Becca and Crush are going to get together. Another huge surprise that wasn't obvious at all. But still, it's crazy to me that they didn't include some of these scenes in the actual freaking movie. Such a strange choice. Anyway, as we wrap up our exploration of Pitch Perfect 3, it's clear that the sequel misses the harmony that made the original films resonate with audiences. Just like Cars 2, the movie diverges significantly from what fans loved about the original. Instead of focusing on engaging musical performances and character-driven storytelling, it gets lost in pointless subplots and over-the-top action sequences that feel more suited to a different genre altogether. This isn't even related to the movie, but every time I look at Becca's face, it makes me think of an Animorph character from that old book series. I just can't stop thinking about her transforming into a mouse, so I wanted to share this valuable information with you all. Moving on, Evermoist just disappears towards the end of the film, making the entire competition subplot pointless. This not only confuses the storyline, but also leaves the viewers feeling unsatisfied. The songs, while not necessarily bad, fail to capture the memorable and iconic status of those in the first film, feeling more like filler than features. The absence of Bumper and other male characters from previous installments feels like a missed opportunity. These characters brought humour and a sense of continuity that this sequel surely lacked. The romantic subplots, rather than adding depth, come across as cliche and predictable, merely serving to extend the runtime without generally enhancing the story. What could have been a touching narrative about the Bellas dealing with the realities of aging and moving on from their shared past instead devolves into a bizarre mix of spy antics and melodrama centered around Fat Amy. The charm and warmth of singing together, which once united the Bellas and their audience, are lost in a sea of explosive antics that echo none of the series' original tone. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this review. If you made it this far, I can't even begin to express my gratitude. Please consider subscribing for more breakdowns and leave a like to support the channel. With that being said, as always, don't forget to stay critical, and that's the end of the show.
Stay critical, that's the end of the show. Break it down with the facts, let the people know.